Hello, my name is Professor Johnson, and today I will do a tough example with factor by grouping, otherwise known as the AC method. Okay, now the reason why I'm going to use the AC method over just guess and check, let's just try guess and check real quick, and we'll see exactly why I'm not using guess and check. So if I have to factor this, I know that we are looking for something times something factored out. Okay, now 4, 17, 15, nothing's in common, so there's no greatest common factor to pull out. Then you have an x squared and an x. Notice you're in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, our quadratic form. Our a is 4, our b is negative 17, and our c is 15. Now, looking at the a term, 4. 4 has 1 and 4 in common and 2 and 2. If we were to guess and check, the possibilities would be 4x times x, or we'd have a 2x and a 2x. And then you have to look at the factors of 15. Okay, 15 is 1 and 15 and 3 and 5. And then you have to figure out, okay, what combination would end up giving you a negative 17 in the middle? As you can tell, there's a lot of guessing and checking that you'd have to do. So I am not going to do it this way. I'm just going to erase all of this. I will not do it the guess and check way because it's just a lot of complications that could occur, and you could accidentally multiply it incorrectly or anything like that. There's a lot more room for error in that method. So I'm going to do the AC method. I need to multiply A and C first. 4 times 15. 4 times 15. Okay, let's think about that. I know 2 times 15 is 30, so if I double that again, that would give you 60. So let's look at the factors of 60. Now, after we look at the factors of 60, the factors of 60 need to add to negative 17. Alright, now there's an issue here. How can you have positive factors add together to a negative 17? The only way that could happen is if you looked at the factors in this particular way. A negative times a negative. Negative times a negative make a positive 60, but when you add them together, you will get a negative here. So if I add those together, you get negative 61. Now, this clearly is not our solution. I will keep going. 2 and 30, but we need negative. Negative 2 times negative 30 gives you a positive 60. Added together, you get negative 32. Okay, then 3 times 20, but negative and negative. Add that together, get negative 23. Looks like we're getting closer to negative 17. 60 has 4 in common. 4 and 15, we just saw that. But 4 and 15 give you a negative 19. Just a little bit too big, but it looks like we're getting closer yet. Okay, then 5 would be the next value. 5 and negative, let's think about it, negative 12. 12 and 5 give you 60. Negative times negative give you a positive. Add those together, you get negative 17. Bingo, that is our answer. But let's find all the factors just to complete it. 6 and... well, let's just go one more. 6 times 10 is 60. You get negative and negative. Okay. And that would add up to negative 16, but that would not be quite the answer. So we will be using this row right here for our solution in the AC method. Now, this is just one part of it, okay? And this was a big part, keeping in mind all these negatives that we had to deal with. And the negatives are because of that negative 17 right up here, that middle term. I'm going to rewrite my problem over on the right-hand side, and I will be using the negative 5 and negative 12 in the middle. I'm going to highlight it right here, the negative 5 and the negative 12, I'll be working with the negative 17x. So I'm just going to introduce the x on all these values. So I'll need to rewrite 4x squared, and then I'm going to leave a space and put plus 15 on the end. I'm changing the way negative 17x looks. I'm just changing the way it looks. I'm not changing the value. It's still going to be an equivalent statement. So I'll put equals in front. Negative 5x minus 12x. And if you check that, negative 5x and the negative 12x adds together to give you a negative 17x. All right, equals, and then we have to think about what the next step is. Now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. There's 4 terms. What you could do is the grouping piece. Grouping tells you to group the first 2 and group the last 2. So this is where grouping comes into play when we call it factor by grouping for this reason. Calling it the AC method just reminds you to multiply the A and the C and then look at the factors of that. Okay, grouping the first 2 terms. In the first 2 terms, 4 and a 5, nothing's in common with 4 and 5 except 1. X squared and x, looks like we can factor out an x. If you factor out an x, it leaves you with a 4x minus 5. Moving right along, in the next portion, we have a negative 12 and a positive 15. What I want to do is, because it starts with a negative, I'm going to put a negative out front. What's in common with negative 12 and positive 15? 12 and 15 have a 3 in common. 3 times 4, and with a negative, brings you to negative 12. I'll put an x with it because we didn't touch the x. A 3 to get to positive 15. So we have a negative here. We'd need to put a negative here. 3 times 5 is 15. Negative and negative make it a positive. So we have factored by grouping in that step. And to continue on, look at the whole thing all together. You have this quantity and this quantity. Notice they are the same. 4x minus 5 shows up at this first big group and then the second big group. It shows up. Since it's in common now, it's in common overall, 4x minus 5 I have factored out. And so imagine, you pulled it out, you plucked it out, you brought it out. You brought it out front. What remains? The x and a negative 3. It looks like this is completely factored. And remember back to what we did with our guess and check? When we were thinking of guess and check, the first term, 4x and x, or we had 2x and 2x. It looks like 4x and x works out. And then you had to look at 15, factors of 15. The 5 and the 3 do work out as factors. But this was a more precise way of getting our answer. Let's check our answer down below. How can we check our answer? What we can do is what's called just FOIL, or distribute it back out. FOIL. So we have 4x minus 5 and x minus 3. First, that's the letter F. First, 4x, that would be 4x squared. Outer, multiply the 4x and negative 3, that would be negative 12x. Inner, negative 5x. Last, negative and negative make a positive. Notice the middle terms should add up to what? Negative 17x, and then you have 4x squared and the plus 15. If you look at this, the negative 12x and the minus 5x, going back up to where we rewrote it earlier in the problem, notice the order is just slightly different. If you rewrote the order, you'd get the same answer. It really doesn't matter, because when you add, adding the order doesn't matter. Same thing with multiplication. Multiplication, order doesn't matter. Thank you for watching my video.